V6 engine, 3 electric motors, all-wheel drive. Yes, this is not the NSX, but what it is the 2017 Acura MDX Sport Hybrid, a new drivetrain option for 2017. And what a drivetrain. 321 horsepower, 298 pound-feet of torque, 7-speed dual-clutch transmission, 0 to 60 in 5.7 seconds. Now that's roughly 30 more horsepower than the standard car and around 20 more pound-feet than the gasoline engine. Now this is a big luxury crossover, so how does it handle? Overall, pretty well actually. There's a little bit of body roll to it, actually quite a bit of body roll, so it doesn't handle quite as nice as something like a BMW X5 or a Porsche Cayenne, but it still does a pretty good job on the road. This is not a track car after all. The one weird thing about the handling though has to be the brakes actually, and so it's a brake-by-wire system, so it's not physically connected, and there's just no response from the pedal whatsoever, so it's actually really hard to modulate the brakes. Especially at low speed, it's actually really hard to control the creep as you're inching forward in traffic or as you're inching into a parking space. The hybrid system, however, more than makes up for it. Let's nerd out on that hybrid system for a second. Now Acura says this system is derived from the NSX, this hybrid system. So just like the NSX, you have a V6 engine that's paired with a single electric motor, but in the back are actually 2 separate electric motors that give you real torque vectoring. Let me explain. A lot of cars have so-called torque vectoring, and what it really is brake vectoring. It's using brakes to brake the inside wheel so that the car pivots better. You can imagine how this system over time could cause excessive wear on the brakes. Now the other solution is a mechanical limited slip diff, and what that would do is send power to the outside wheels. The MDX Sport Hybrid takes that a step further. Using the 2 separate electric motors in the back, the outside electric motor sends more power to the outside, as you would expect, but it also uses regenerative braking to slow down the inside wheel to create a greater torque difference between the inside and outside wheel, providing even more pivot under hard cornering. The result of that torque vectoring is that midway through a corner, you can step on it, and you can feel the car pulling itself around. It's really strange. You feel the electric motor pushing the car, but you also feel it applying different amounts of power through the back to pull you through a corner. And the result of that is that although there's a bit of body roll, and it's not quite as sporty as some of the other competitors, it's a really fun drive. As for the rest of the car, it's a really pleasant package all around. The interior in terms of fit and finish is really good. The overall feel quality is not quite as high as things like a Lexus or Audi, but it's pretty close up there. The seats are really comfortable. They're heated and cooled. In fact, the heated and cooled seats can automatically work with the automatic climate control as well. In terms of passenger convenience, there's plenty of storage space in the car. There's 3 USB ports just here in the first row, 2 of which are for charging and 1 of which connects you to the stereo system. There's another 2 USB ports for the second row and another 2 USB ports for the third row. Speaking of the third row, the MDX has one of the easiest systems for getting into the third row. It's just a single button, press it, and you're in the back. Once you're in there though, it's a little tight for taller adults, but it'll be perfectly fine for kids. In order to bring up the third row, it's just a single latch. Pull it and you're done. Simple as that. Once the third row is up, there's still a decent amount of trunk space as well, and there's an additional bit of trunk storage underneath the trunk floor. The Sport Hybrid comes with adjustable dampers actually, which is really crazy for what is essentially, a family car, right? So you choose it down here by the gear selector, which I still find kind of weird, but at least it looks nice. Down here in dynamic mode, you can select from different modes, from comfort, normal, sport, and sport plus. Now comfort and normal respond exactly as you would think it would. The damper's a little bit softer, a little bit more comfortable. The engine will cut off at stoplights more often. Sport and sport plus are the exciting ones in my opinion. What happens is even at stoplights, it actually doesn't cut off the engine to save fuel. It will keep the engine running so you have that instantaneous response. It firms up the suspension a little bit and the steering actually gets a little bit tighter as well. Now this MDX has of course the notorious dual screen setup, which is a little confusing at first, but I think I'm starting to understand it. The top screen can do navigation and the bottom screen always does your music and your climate controls. First things first, I do appreciate that the climate control temperature is always shown, unlike in other cars. And the touchscreen itself is fairly easy to use and even has a bit of haptic feedback to it. My problem has to do with the top screen a little bit, mostly being that you can also control music on the top screen, which makes it feel like a bit of a redundancy. I would have preferred if it just did navigation on top. Then it'd be way less confusing and it'd be very clear what those 2 screens do. Let's talk about the exterior styling. New for 2017 is this grille right here, which is interesting to say the least. I think I prefer the older design, but so be it. I love the LED headlights. They're Zhuo-like, which makes them look really pretty in my opinion, and their projector, more importantly, instead of other people's reflector LED headlights. The benefit of that is you're going to get really bright output at night and really clean cutoff as well, which is no surprise because of course Acura and Honda were the best at xenon headlights when they first came out in the early 2000s. Continuing down here, we have LED fog lights as well, also projector, very clean cutoff and output, and LED taillights as well. In terms of the rear, I think it's even more attractive than the front. I just really like the overall design of the back, the shape of it. I love the sport exhaust tips for the Sport Hybrid version. And when I was coming back from work, every time I was putting something in the trunk, I just really enjoyed just staring at it first before opening up the trunk, which is really strange considering this is a crossover. Overall, the MDX is a great package. It's well equipped, offering great value, and starts at a lower price than its competitors such as the Lexus RX 450 Hybrid, the Infiniti QX60 Hybrid, and the BMW X5 Hybrid. The hybrid system offers great power as well as fuel efficiency. It's well built, well made. It will most certainly be reliable being an Acura, and overall it's quiet, comfortable, and an absolute joy to drive.